So Battlefield 5's Grand Operations mode is estimated that each match will take around an hour or more, depending on how the match goes or how close the match is. That got me and Swanee thinking that that's pretty unusual, and there's not too many. It's pretty much never happened before that there would be gigantically long game modes like that would take up to an hour in time just to complete the entire multiplayer mode. So that got us thinking, is this a good idea to go in the direction of having longer, potentially more epic battles, but also obviously eating up a lot of time? So that got us thinking, basically, should Battlefield 5 try to take this approach to make their battles even longer, or do you think this will be kind of taxing on video game players and the time they have to play it?
I think this is going to, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. I think it's cool that matches are going to last this long and you have the option to play something like this, but it's just like any video game. You're going to have a lot of players that don't really realize how long the mode is. So I think they're just going to pick it, and then they're going to keep playing and playing and playing, and then you'll obviously have people backing out and different things like that. But I don't know if it's really a good idea. I don't know. It's kind of a gray area for me. Like, if I sit down and I want to play a video game, and say it's a first-person shooter, normally you would want the matches to go by pretty quickly. That way you can, like, go in, complete your objectives, try to get a bounty or whatever, depending on the game, get your kills, and then you want to have, like, the end screen so you can see what all XP you got, or you can edit your loadouts in the main menu or whatever. If you're in, like, an hour-long match, how are you supposed to, like, edit your gear and stuff?
Yeah, I got a couple other concerns too. I mean, you talked about people leaving, people coming back in. Obviously, the servers are going to have to be, easy that they can do that and have it constantly jumping in and out and not have difficulties bringing new players in, because then the battles will be heavily swayed all the time by those kind of things. So that would kind of concern me. Also, if one team's losing or not playing well at all, I guess the match would end sooner, but if you have to endure that misery even longer, I think that would be a huge turnoff to people. But like you said, it is a two-edged sword. So the flip side of it is, if you're in an epic battle, you're going to be in an insanely epic battle. Now you're going to be in a battle that's just going to be like the time of your life in video games for like a whole hour long. But you are also going to have crap battles. You're going to have maps that you might not like. Now you're stuck on that map for an hour. I think, obviously we've played a lot of Battlefront. You would have, obviously, a lot of map skipping in that, where people would skip because they don't want to play on that map. Well, imagine if you knew you have to play on that map for possibly an entire hour. Well, then there's going to be a ton of map skipping, which will make things a little more difficult in matchmaking. So, I mean, if all the maps are good and most of the battles are great, then this is awesome. This will be really, really cool for people. But if, unless the game is perfect, which I can't imagine it will be, no game usually is, that's going to be a potential big problem. Plus, I think you're going to have certain gamers that, might only want to play for like 20 or 30 minutes at a time. I shouldn't say gamers. I should say normal people playing the game that aren't necessarily gamers, that aren't going to want to necessarily play for an hour at a time like that. So there's a lot of give and take with this. I mean, it could be a really epic idea, or this could really fall flat if it's not executed properly.
Yeah, well, the thing with the map is Battlefield normally has like a map selector where you can just browse and pick whichever map you want, but that's kind of hit or miss too. But, I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, imagine you play on a map and you know that it sucks, and then after that map is another map that sucks. Like, you could potentially wait like 2 or 3 hours if you stay in the same playlist just to get on a map that you like. Or more. But, I mean, there's not very many first-person shooters online with matches that last that long. Like, it's normally like a strategy game or an RPG or something kind of like Destiny or something where you can choose how long you play. If you're in a match for that long, like, is there going to be like a an incentive to stay the entire time? Like, do you get more XP the longer you stay in the match, or is there a penalty for leaving early? There's a bunch of different things that could come into play. Do you even get the XP for the entire match if you leave early? Like, how they need to have it,
or what if you join halfway through too?
yeah.
I mean, what if you're a person who's trying to find a lobby, you join into a game, it's halfway over, then you don't get full credit, but you were still there for like half an hour.
Yeah.
That's still a pretty significant amount of time. So that could go both ways.
Now, they obviously have other game modes. Like, they have the Conquest mode, which is the most popular mode, where it's, I think it's 32 versus 32, which, I mean, you can easily just play that if you want a shorter match. These operations are for, I mean, they're broken up into chunks. It's like you play the first part, and then after that first part's over, you go into the second part, and then your progress from the first part carries over. And then I think in this one, they're giving a feature, I think they call it Final Stand, where it's kind of like search and destroy kind of thing, where if you die, you just don't respawn, and then the team with the last team standing wins. But I don't get, like, what happens in that case? Like, what if you're the first one to die? Do you just sit there and wait the rest of the match out, where you just watch your team fight each other? Because that could get pretty boring, especially if these maps are massive and I don't know. So there's so many things that could come into play with this game mode. I just hope that it's worth it for players in terms of, like, actually waiting an hour or longer compared to just playing a different game mode.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, on the positive side of things, I would imagine, most times I'm in a game, like, I guess if you imagine most of the times I was in, like, a Battlefield 1 operations mode, there weren't too many times where I'm like, this sucks and I can't wait for this map to end. It was usually, it was an enjoyable battle, and I was enjoying myself. It felt like a realistic battle, and that's one of the biggest things about this. It'll feel very realistic. I'd imagine this will have a very real feel to it because it's taking such a long time and have so many different elements to it. I mean, it's going to go between... It's supposed to basically last, video game days. So it's going to be like a very, very long, epic feel of a battle. And I do think a majority of the fans want something like that. It's just there is so many little tiny concerns that could make a humongous difference and ruin the whole game mode. These are the things we're trying to, like, just... There's a lot of things they'd have to get right. I'm not saying that it's impossible that they will, but there's just a lot of tiny things that I think they would have to make sure they iron out and have ready to go for this game mode to work, or otherwise it could be a tremendous flop. I feel like there's not a lot of wiggle room here. It's either going to be an amazing video game experience or completely fall flat. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of middle ground with this game.
There's a lot.
It could be amazing or it could
a
really
lot
suck.
going on in Battlefield in general. Like, there's this operations thing that's supposed to go on for like an hour per match, and they're going to have Battle Royale mode plus a story mode. There's tons and tons of stuff. Like, how... I don't see how they're going to get all this stuff to work properly. You would think that the Battle Royale would need different tweaks than, say, Operations mode or whatever, kind of, for balancing and stuff. And I just don't know how they're going to...
Well, they also haven't...
keep track of all this stuff and keep the servers up and running and whatever.
Well, they also haven't said how... Have they said exactly if it's going to be 100 players in the Battle Royale?
I don't think so.
Or
I don't
how
think
they're
they
going to
could
do
get
it?
100 players in a Battle Royale.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think... I mean, they can't do it exactly the same, I'd imagine, as Fortnite. So that would have probably its own... But you're right. It would be a different makeup and everything, too. So, Battlefield 5 has a lot of potential because, obviously, having this many game modes, it can backfire on you. But it could also be an extremely epic experience. It's just... It holds both sides to that. And with EA and DICE, we've had the Battlefield 1s, we've had the Battlefront 2s, so it little bit give and take. And I know those are two different studios and everything, but there's a lot of question marks, I think, revolving around this game, and a lot of redemption, especially for EA after the year or so that they've had. It'd be a big deal if Battlefield 5 was a major success, and it definitely could be. It has a lot of potential to be.
Oh yeah.
But there's a lot of different things going on there.
Pretty excited for this Battlefield, like in terms of all this different stuff that they're bringing to the table. I'm not that big of a fan of World War II since I've played tons and tons of World War II games over the years, but all these, like this operations and this battle royale and all this different stuff, I mean, I'm excited for all that stuff. I just hope that it's executed and it's not like a Battlefield 4 all over again, where that game is broken for forever.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as they get the game right and everything works as intended, I think it'll be probably a really great game. But, I mean, like most DICE games, if it's full of bugs, nothing works as intended, then that's what I fear.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
I mean, DICE had a lot of success before the Battlefront 2, so I mean, it's not like all their games are awful, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Hopefully it turns out a lot like Battlefield 1. I think that would be a big deal for everybody if it was similar to that game in at least a success way. So anyway, guys, let us know in the comments down below. What do you think? Do you think the Grand Operations mode could be a flop? Do you think it's going to be a major success? How do you feel about Battlefield 5 overall coming into its release just a couple months away? Let us know what you guys think in the comments down below. Smash the like button as always. Subscribe if you have not already. If you guys are specifically into Fortnite, go ahead and check out our other channel, Fortnite Updates. And as for us, we will see you in the next video.
We would be honored if you would join us. You cannot resist